Pak Lukman Hakim nanya tuh. Oke.
Mana itu? Berarti yang C itu siapa?
C berapa?
C7.
Aku C5. Siapa C7? Aku C5. C5. Ini pun gimana sih? Malah udah ada yang masuk banget. Minta passcode po. Nih po, minta passcode po. Oh, ini di sini. Jadi udah siap sih harusnya nih. Rahmayana. Schedule for close.
Halo, selamat sore. Apakah sudah ada orang di sini?
Halo, selamat sore.
Halo, selamat sore Pak Nepo Ebianto dan Mas Gede Indra Pramana.
Oke,
Mas, gimana ya kok pakai masker?
nggak apa-apa, Pak. Ini kan bagian dari properti.
Oh, oke. Baiklah. Nah, kita pakai bahasa Inggris kan, Mas, ini?
Kenapa?
Kita pakai bahasa Inggris kan ini?
Bebas. Maunya apa?
Ya, jangan bahasa Bali aja, nggak ngerti saya nanti. Mas, tapi kalau kamu pakai masker jadi nggak terlalu jelas suaranya.
Oh iya toh. Ya wes, tak buka maskernya. Nanti kalau saya kena COVID, saya tuntut maknya.
Kamu lagi di mana ya, Mas? Kok sampai kena, ada kemungkinan kena?
Orang-orang, Mbak, bercanda, Mbak.
Loh, aku tanya tenang loh, Mas.
Mbak Tika di Jogja.
Oh, di kampus.
Oh, di kampus? Nggak di lockdown kampusnya?
Loh, di lockdown untuk mahasiswanya.
Ya wes, Mbak. Jadi kita pakai bahasa Inggris ini. Siapa dari sekarang ini? Udah jam 5 ini.
Iya kah? Belum,
Saya
masih
presentasi
kurang
sekarang
7
ini.
menit.
Kenapa?
Di sini masih kurang 7 menit.
Oh iya sih, benar sih.
Mas, kok bosanku Surabaya nih?
Ya wis, kulo tak halus boten Surabaya.
Iya, tapi logatmu loh. Arek
Boten kulo Bali asline. Kan Bali niki, Mbak.
Mas, kamu ngeselin ya? Sosok medok. Selamat sore, Rahmi Rahmayati. Mas, suara kan kayak sebelah tuh lagi dibangun. Suaraku keganggu nggak sama suara itu?
Iki jujur-jujuran tak keganggu atau enggak?
Hah?
Ora.
Nggak kedengeran.
Ora.
Kalau kedengeran aku pakai headset.
Enggak apa-apa.
Oke. Gimana Mas, kamu duluan kok presentasinya? Mas, ojo di mute toh yo lah ya ora krungu aku.
Tak cowoan ae timbangane bahasa Inggrisan ngono. Ya apa? Menarik ya.
Betul.
Aku tak share sih ya.
Ya Mas, kamu presentasi sih dah.
Yo, wis.
Oke, berarti nomor 1 Mas. Ini senang gue. Berarti nomor 1.
Apa yo?
Mas, terus panggilanmu Indra apa Pramana?
Gede Mas Gede yo into, Mas Indra yo into.
Oke.
Ojo Mas ketemu gede ae.
Mas, kamu di Udayana di mananya ya?
Di Sospol aku, Mbak.
Apa?
Sospol.
Gospel,
Titik.
Visipol. Oke. Ibu dan Bapak yang mau presentasi selanjutnya setelah Mas Gede.
Saya saja, Mbak.
Baik, Bu. Ibu sendirian, Bu?
Ya.
Baik, Bu Rahmi. Kalau Ibu
Ya.
Rahmi dari mana, Bu?
Saya dari UNESA, Mbak.
Universitas Negeri Surabaya ya, Bu?
Ya.
Fakultasnya, Bu?
Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni.
Oh iya, wah seru nih, Bu. Bahasa, kalau Ibu sendiri ngajar apa, Bu?
Oh, saya ngajarnya di jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Indonesia. Iya.
Baik, Bu. Yang ini, dari tadi di sini masnya kurang satu nih, siapa masnya nih? Kalau Kakak Nepo Erbianto sudah ada di sini? Oke, sepertinya dia ada tapi tiada. Ibu kalau misalnya mau dicoba dulu presentasinya boleh loh, Bu.
Mana Mbak?
Bu Rami kalau
Presentasinya?
presentasinya mau dicoba dulu boleh.
Share screen atau apa? Nggak apa-apa,
Iya, Bu.
nanti aja setelah siapa? Setelah Mas Indra ini ya.
Iya, Bu. Kalau iya, nanti tinggal di share screen aja. Ini acaranya pakai bahasa Inggris toh?
Bebas, bebas, Mak. Saya bahasa Jawa, yo into, bahasa Indonesia boleh.
Kita masih menunggu ketersediaan satu pembicara lagi. Satu narasumbernya belum.
Mbak ini, Mbak
Iya.
UGM.
Oh iya, saya Fakultas Hukum, Bu.
Oh, hukum. Oh iya.
Saya nggak kelihatan seperti hukum, Bu.
Kelihatannya seperti apa?
Jangan-jangan dulu yang ini ya, Tika ya?
Kenapa?
Tika dulu riset ekonomi se-Indonesia itu ya? Jangan-jangan ya?
Oh,
Dan
Mas,
sempat ke Bali juga.
gimana ulangi? Suaraku putus-putus.
Sama, enggak, ini dulu sempat ke Bali, riset tentang ekonomi kreatif. Sama Fakultas Hukum.
Iya betul, makanya kok kayaknya kamu tuh nggak asing. Oh, kamu kenal Mas Todi berarti?
Iya, loh iya
Ya
aku tinggal wangi, Mbak.
ampun.
Pas dengan nang Bali, Mbak.
Ya ampun Mas, kita perlu tukeran kontak, siapa tahu ke Bali lagi. Kayak nomormu harusnya aku masih punya sih.
Ya kutune.
Ya ampun,
Yang
iya.
kalian-
Kamu terlihat.
Tapi kok kamu sekarang di PLHT? Bukannya kamu ini? Bukannya kamu dihukum?
Tenaga perbantuan.
Oh, pantesan.
Mas, kamu masih yang di
Betah,
tempat
Mas.
itu, kafe yang
Yo, wes iki, wes ngajar saiki.
hah?
Sudah ngajar sekarang kan?
Tapi masih nongkrong situ nggak?
Kalau nongkrong aja masih. Baru udah nggak managing programmer lagi.
Apa?
Udah nggak ngurusin program lagi.
Oh gitu. Padahal itu terdengar sangat seru.
Ya begitulah.
Terus di kampus seru nggak, Mas?
Ya lockdown.
Hah?
Lockdown kan kampus kan?
Ya maksudnya kerja di kampus. Biasanya kan kamu kayak kemana-mana, terus sekarang kayak di kampus gitu. Iya.
Ya, yo. Nantilah rasakanlah kamu. Sudah ngajar nanti. Kamu kan pasti rencana lanjut dan pasti rencana ngajar kan? Ya nantilah rasakan.
Mas, kamu kalau ngomong jangan cepet-cepet. Nggak mengerti saya nih.
Ya, nanti kamu akan merasakan ketika setelah kamu lanjut S2 dan kamu melamar di kampus dan kamu diterima. Kamu akan merasakan gimana di kampus.
Tapi kan perasaanku beda sama perasaanmu kan bisa juga.
Ya, jangan sampai sama Tika perasaan kita, Tika.
Apa coba maksudnya? Coba Mas, jadi gimana perasaannya? Lucu banget ya kamu nih. Ya orang perasaannya sendiri-sendiri. Kok bisa sama nih loh?
Ora, guyon Tika.
Mas, pantesan aku kayak merasa kamu terasa familiar gitu. Tapi kayak,
Luar
gimana
biasa.
ya?
Luar biasa.
Iya ya, ternyata kita ketemu di sini. Aku akan mengechatmu secara pribadi. Ya mungkin kita malah ngobrol, mungkin kita annoying kali buat yang lain. Ternyata
Iya
aku-
loh, ini kayak direkod. Ini kayak direkod juga kayaknya ya.
Sumpah. Iya, astagfirullah.
Udah jam 7 Tika, gimana ini?
Yang ini belum ada pesertanya, Mas.
Gimana?
Tapi belum ada pesertanya. Ini baru semuanya speaker doang. Semuanya cuma
Nggak
bicara.
apa-apa. Kalau saya sih nggak apa-apa.
Itu, okay. Is there any organizer in here? So everyone from the organizer that they asked us for wait for another like 5 to 10 minutes. Then if no one comes to this room, so we can just start with the presentation. So for now, we have agreed that actually we will have 5 presenters for this room. The first is Gede Indra Pramana. The second is Rahmi Rahmayati. And then the third, but I have not heard his voice yet, Nepo Arpianto. And actually, I don't know whether Najib Azea and Rani Dwi Putri will present both of their papers or what will happen because they are not here yet. So we will just wait for another 5 to 10 minutes for the other speakers and probably if there are more participants to join this room.
Thank you.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Okay, for speakers Wahyu Kuncoro, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Pak Wahyu Kuncoro or Mas Wahyu Kuncoro?
Yeah, both. But I prefer, yeah, you can call me Mas.
Since I cannot see you, your video is off, so.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Mas Wahyu, you will
Yes.
present this, or you have recorded the presentations in video.
I'm a co-author yeah, with Dr. Vina.
Okay, so you will present, or we will just see your video of presentations.
Oh, see the record the video.
Okay, record.
Yeah.
So the host, please prepare for Pak Wahyu Kuncoro's presentations. What about Pak Najib Aska?
Hello, Mbak. I'm going to present my PPT, PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. So you will
Not recorded.
present two presentations.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome to the room. We are in the room for women and human rights. And here I am as the moderator. My name is Sartika Intaning Pradhani. You can call me Sartika, or my nickname is Kaka. I'm coming from the Faculty of Law. I'm teaching here in Adat Law Department, and also active in Adat Research Center, Joyodikuno, and also Law, Gender, and Society Research Center. So today I'm going to be the moderator for this room. Here we have 5 speakers with 5 presentations. 4 of the presentations will be delivered directly by the speakers. They are, the first is Gede Indra Pramana, and then the second is Ibu Rahmi, and then the third and the fourth is Pak Najib, and the last one we will see the video from Pak Wahyu Kuncoro. So after that we will have question and answer. So if anyone, do you have any questions, please feel free to chat your questions, and later on I will deliver these questions to the speakers. So each of the speaker will have 10 to 15 minutes for your presentations. And after all the speakers deliver the presentations, either directly or through the video, we will proceed to the question and answer. Are we good with that arrangement?
Fine.
Okay.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, so now time is for Gede Indra Pramana. You can present your paper for 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the time for the moderators. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Gede Indra Pramana. I teach in Faculty of Social and Political Science in Udayana University in Bali. So I happen to have doing field works in Negara in Jembrana, one of the regencies in Bali in 2015 during the exhumations of the 1965 victims' bodies in Jembrana, Bali. So what is make these occasions is interesting is because the exhumations become parts of the mass creation ritual, or as people culturally call Ngaben. It is common practice carried out by the Hindus, Maya religions in many parts of Bali. The difference, however, it was the bodies of 1965 victims who's been cremated and then exhumed. The locations of the mass grave itself is in the centers of the village, right in front of the primary schools in the village. So it's kind of like a special occasion during that time, because before the events of exhumations that happen in Wonosobo or in another occasions in Solo, they're really a hard flashbacks from the right wing organizations, but that doesn't happen in Bali. So I think Bali has some kind of special context and conditions which makes these occasions, these special occasions, possible. So I spent like a whole month before the events and during the event and then after the events. It's kind of like field work, and it's also parts of documentary filmmaking with movie director from Bangli, from Bali also, with Raji Ariana. And the documentary film is been screened in Singapore International Film Festival called Martian Message. So I was there, and the field note, the interview, and all of the research parts are during the occasions of the occasions. So mainly my finding is two parts. The first is that for the villagers, it's the 1965 events. It's not like a really historical changing event. No, for them, they don't really narrate about what is the power play in Jakarta, or what is the military conduct during the other regions. But for them, in local context, it's become part of loss actually. So it is their family members, it is their village members who are missed, who are lost. And then the tragic part is the one who execute those victims were the village member itself. So it's kind of like guilt feeling for a collective guilt feeling in the village member, on and on since 1965 until 2015. So it's kind of like 50 years. But then the children of the family members and other family members and other village members, they initiated this kind of events, like they exhume the bodies and they do it for the ngaben ceremony, the proper way. So according to him, it's kind of like what you call it? It is the one that they need to do to their predecessors. It is the proper way to put death, because according to them, the victims is not dead properly, and the bodies also located not in the special areas of the cemetery in the village. So according to them, the village, the cosmological positions of the bodies is have a really bad effect to their livelihood, which is for them. This is the interesting part. The bad parts of the symptoms of having this unpure part of the bodies not in the cemetery is a lot of suicide happen during the 50 years. So every year there are village members who doing suicide, something like that. This is actually the part of the photograph, the mask that has been exchanged in the road, in the main roads of the village. So we can see here is the legislative body's representation. It's Chief Jembrani Chief from PDIP, and then a lot of people also, not only from the village but also from other parts. So what I find interesting is, and what we can conclude about this practice of cultural strategies is, like, it is not only presents a concrete effort to make peace with the past, it also shows that struggles to refer to that the history does not necessarily require support from universal research. I mean, like, it's really embedded in local context about family laws, about impures of the village, how the tragic event in the past impacting their livelihood, everyday livelihood until now. And it must also be considered in particular localities. Only then the cultural strategies can be appropriately applied as way to fight the oblivion. I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Mas Gede Indra Paramana. It's a very interesting story from Bali. How then the people in Jembrana was considering that this graveyard is bring like a kind of bad luck for them, and how then they try to make peace with their past by doing the exhumations. So it's a very interesting story from Bali. And after this, we have another presenter. She is Ibu Rahmi Ramayanti. She teach in Faculty of Language and Art in Universitas Negeri Surabaya. And she will present her paper about Rohana Kudus resistance. So we just heard from Bali, and now we will hear story from West Sumatra about Rohana Kudus resistance. How then this journalist education activist from West Sumatra conduct its resistance towards the Dutch colonialism. So Bu Rahmi, time is yours for 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks for moderator. In this parallel session, I would like to present my paper. The title of my paper is Representation of Rohana Kudus Resistance to Dutch Colonialism in Belenggu Emas by Iksana Banu. There are 5 sections in my presentation. First, introduction. Second, research problem. Third, research method. 4, finding. And the last one is conclusion. Let me start with introduction. Women in third world countries have a different experience from women in first world countries because most of them have experienced colonization by countries from Europe, such as Britain and Netherlands, and from Asia, such as Japan. Indonesia is one of the countries that was colonized by the Dutch for 3.5 centuries, has positioned Indonesian women at the time as victims of the colonial system and the patriarchy system. Lumba states that women in colonized societies were even called the revealed targets of colonialist and nationalist discourses. So although there were frequent differences and competition in fighting over indigenous women, this condition was the background for the emergence of resistance by women during the colonial period, either by taking part in fighting directly or indirectly. There were a number of female heroes who rebelled are pioneers of women's organizations before Budi Utomo. Meanwhile, Rohana Kudus is classified as an activist for women's organizations after Budi Utomo. R.A. Kartini and Raden Dewi Sartika are names that are familiar to Indonesian society because of their well-known work. In addition, R.A. Kartini and R. Dewi Sartika have been awarded the title of National Hero for a long time, while Rohana Kudus was only awarded the title of National Hero on November 7, 2019, even though her work and contribution to women's education and journalism have been long. In fact, Rohana Kudus is known as the pioneer of the first female journalist in Indonesia. Rohana Kudus, together with 60 women, including the wives of traditional and religious leader Koto Gadang, initiated the formation of Karajinan Amai Setia. In addition, Rohana Kudus founded a women's newspaper called Sunting Melayu. The resistance of one of the Indonesian female figures, Rohana Kudus, is represented in a short story entitled Belenggu Emas by Iksana Banu, with the main character with the same name, Rohana Kudus. The short story tells about the resistance carried out by the character of Rohana Kudus as indigenous woman from West Sumatra, With her intellectual knowledge and abilities and her movement as a female activist who succeeded in establishing Amai Setia and School and the newspaper Sunting Melayu. This form of resistance received the attention and admiration of Dutch women named Cornelia and Mrs. Joanna Adriana Westeneng. Nelly's admiration toward Rohana Kudus is because for Nelly, Rohana not only has extraordinary intellectual knowledge and abilities, but also has the courage to express her opinion under colonial and patriarchy pressure. In fact, the character of Rohana has inspired women in the Dutch East, including Dutch women. Because of her success in being a driving force for West Sumatra women and her efforts in providing skill and education to them through the Amai Setia School and the newspaper Sunting Melayu that she pioneered and founded. The short story is one of the short stories from Iksana Banu's collection of short story Teh dan Pengkhianat, published in April 2019. Referring to Abram's opinion, the short story is categorized as historical fiction and biographical fiction because the basis for writing in historical and biographical facts and the work of fiction is known as non-fiction fiction. This is because not only presenting facts about the existence of character Rohana Kudus, but also the works of the author Iksana Banu are mostly categorized as historical fiction. The reason for choosing the short story Belenggu Emas in Iksana Banu's collection, short story in this research is in the new category of publication, as not many have examined the short stories and no one has studied the resistance of the character of Rohana Kudus using a post-colonial perspective. Research problem, there are 3 research problems. First, how is the resistance of Rohana Kudus in the form of mimicry? Second, how is the resistance of Rohana Kudus in the form of hybridity? And the last one, how is the resistance of Rohana Kudus in the form of ambivalence? Research method in this paper use a qualitative method. There are 4 stages in this research. First, determining the source of the data. Second, data classification. Third, data analysis. And the last one, conclusion. Finding, there are 3 findings. First, mimicry. Based on the description in the quote of short story, the attitude of the character Rohana Kudus can be interpreted as a form of mimicry. This mimicry was manifested through the superiority shown by the character of Rohana Kudus in facing
I think there is internet problems with Burahmi. She just disconnected from this. Okay. The organizer, can you contact her to ask whether she can manage the problem with the connections? While we are waiting for her, Pak Najib, do you mind if you just continue with your presentation?
Hello, Mbak Sartika. Hello. Yes, I'm fine. I'm ready. What do you think? Should I start?
Yeah, probably you can present which one, the young people Muslim in Poso first, or
Should I make it continuously or in separate part?
probably you can mention the in part so we can understand that you present two different presentations.
Oh, two different presentation. Okay, so I think we're going to start with the unraveling hijab first, because that is more general, like giving more general picture of the cases of the POSO, because we are going to present two one. The second one is actually being young female Muslim in POSO, so it's a little bit more particular cases. So yeah, how about that? It's okay?
Wait a minute, Pak Rahmi just get connected again.
Going back already?
Yeah,
Okay.
I will ask her whether now she
Okay.
has got stable internet connections.
Yes.
Rahmi, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I think my connection in here, it's not stable.
Oh yeah, so you can just, Pak Najib, so wait a minute, let Bu Rahmi just finish her presentation.
Yes, no worries.
So you
Okay,
and Rahmi can continue your presentation. So Bu Rahmi,
Okay, fine.
first, you can just continue your presentation. Oh, Bu Rahmi, if maybe your internet connection is not stable, you can just turn off your video so we can just hear your voice. That's okay.
Okay, so I'm not share my PowerPoint, okay?
Video,
you
video.
Can just share you can share your PowerPoint, but your video is turned off. Probably it will make your internet connection more stable. Just try it. Okay, so everyone, we can we will continue presentations from Bu Rahmi. We hope that she got more stable internet connections now.
Okay, thank you. The second finding, hybridity in the short story of Belenggu Emas by Iksana Banu. Can you hear me?
Yes, your voice is clear.
Okay. The hybridity that emerged as a result of the acculturation of the Dutch colonial cultural system and the indigenous people was manifested in spatial form. The House of West Sumatra people, which is usually synonymous with Rumah Gadang, has begun to adopt European buildings from the Dutch colonial culture. Based on the quote of the short story, the indigenous people represented by the character Rohana Kudus received a new culture from the Dutch colonial in the form of a large building with 4 French-style windows, to each in the left and right, flanking the front door. The people of West Sumatra, who usually have a house with Rumah Gadang building layout, have begun to adopt the European building layout as a result of the combination of West Sumatra and Dutch colonial culture. This is form of hybridity because they represent a mix of culture, even though each of the forms of characteristic of the two cultures cannot be recognized anymore because they have merged into something new and more complex. This includes a form of resistance because the House of Rohana Kudus, with a combination of luxurious European and Rumah Gadang building design, saw a superiority that equals the Dutch houses with luxurious European designs. This threatened the Dutch authority as a colonizer because usually only the colonizer had luxurious houses with European spatial design. And the last finding is ambivalence. Based on this quote of the short story, it can be seen that Rohana Kudus shows her ambivalence. namely that at the same time she shows her east side with the clothes and regional identity that she wears on the one hand, and on the other hand she shows her west side by speaking Dutch very fluent as well as strong self-confidence. The resistance of Rohana Kudus in the form of ambivalence is when she confidently introduced herself by speaking Dutch very fluent and perfect gesture. This was categorized as a form of resistance because Rohana Kudus was able to challenge Dutch women with her attitude or gesture and her foreign language skill that were usually only possessed by the colonialists. Conclusion, this study has still has limitation in exploring the character of Rohana Kudus and can be studied further in subsequent studies with a variety of different theoretical approach. As for the results of the discussion of this research, the resistance of the character Rohana Kudus represented in Iksana Banu's short story includes resistance in the form of mimicry, hybridity, and ambivalence. The mimicry of the character Rohana Kudus is an imitation and the colonial discourse in terms of superiority of knowledge, education, ethics, and habits. This resistance was demonstrated by Rohana Kudus' intellectual abilities in expressing her courage and opinion, but through her writings in the newspaper she owned and through her activities as an educational and journalistic activist who had inspired women in the Dutch East Indies, including Dutch women. Besides her ability to establish the Amai Setia School and Sunting Melayu newspaper and her attitude that always showing a confident attitude and soft eyes, this broke the perception that the colonized were always inferior and marginalized. I think that is my presentation. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bu Rahmi Rahmayati, for an interesting presentations about Rohana Kudus resistance that she, like she said, develop strategy either through mimicry, hybridity, or ambivalency to fight against the Dutch colonialist. So after hearing a woman from West Sumatra, now we are going to move to Poso, Pak Najib and Mbak Rani. They will both share their research experience with the woman in Poso into different presentations. The first is about unrevealing hijab, and the second is about how then these women deal with the marriage and employment issue. So Pak Najib and Mbak Rani, time is yours to present your presentations for about 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Chair Sartika, for giving us opportunity to share our research. Here I am with Mbak Rani. It's actually a young promising scholar from Visipol, going to present this paper. Actually, for the first one, actually, we also conducted this with another researcher, Mas Zaki Aropi, who unfortunately could not join with us today because he is on the way back to his hometown in Tegal for family occasion. Okay, I will start with the first one about unrevealing the hijab, because this is more giving like overview, giving more like general overview of the situation, which is help us also in explaining, in telling the audience actually about the second one, actually about the being young female Muslim in the post-conflict society. Okay, I'm going to share screen now. Okay, this one, I think the first one. Yes. Can you see the screen already?
Not yet.
Not yet, on the way.
Yes, still ongoing.
Yes, the title of this paper is actually Unraveling the Hijab, Understanding Women Agency in Counter Extremism in Post-Conflict Poso. This is actually based on our fieldwork research conducted last year with Mas Zaki, Rani, and also another college, Mbak Sari, who also could not join in this occasion. You see already the screen already? Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Oh, okay. Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah? What do you think? Should I cancel the screen sharing and the committee maybe will do that for us? Or what do you think?
Oh, I think that will be a very good idea, but our organizer, or you can just send the file.
Yes, I sent the file already.
Okay.
The two file we sent already to the organizing committee.
Okay, so the organizer, can you help us with the problem of presentation slide? Okay, Pa, you can just continue and we will work with the presentation.
It's still not coming yet, yeah?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, so I will try to just stop share, yeah? Not to make complicated, yeah?
Yes, just stop sharing.
I just stop share. Okay. Okay, I just sorry here. Yep. Unraveling the hijab. Okay. First, we are going to present research context of this paper. This is the context is actually in a Poso location where religious conflict between Muslim and Christian took place from 1998, 1991 until 2001. This is, yes, it happened now, yeah? Okay. Second slide, please. Second slide, please. Yeah. This is the research context, yeah, about the in Poso, actually the location of religious communal conflict between Muslim and Christian. And interestingly, actually there is a shift from communal violence to terrorism kind of violence, yeah, starting from 2001. Actually, 2001 is when peace accord achieved by two warring parties. Muslim group and Christian group come to a consensus making a peace agreement. They call it Malino 1 peace accord in 2001. But following that peace accord, actually, there is a shift of a form of conflict from, let's say, communal violence to terrorism action by some jihadist group such as Jamaah Islamiyah, Mujahideen, Kompak, and so on. And also another shift happened following because of the first group of jihadists is actually more affiliated with kind of Al-Qaeda in the global connection. But the next one, starting from 2010 until presently, actually another stream of jihadism emerged in that area led by Abu Wardah or Santoso, call themselves Mujahidin Indonesia Timur, MIT, which is more associated with ISIS. Interestingly also, a recent terrorism action involving some female jihadists, such as what happened in Surabaya 2018 and also in Sibolga suicide bombing in 2019, yeah. Yet there are some also important role played by female counter-violent extremism, yeah, especially through her role as wife. So try to extend both sides, yeah, the engagement of female in violence extremism, but also in counter-violent extremism. The next slide, please. The next slide. Yeah, the next slide is actually about research context. The current development reveal that the role of women in violent extremism group is not exclusively on conventional roles, such as reproductive and nurturing role as a mother, for example, but also it has extended into more active role, such as logistic arranger, financer, campaigner, courier, even become suicide bomber, as also I explained previously. And particularly one report by IPAC, this is think tank research think tank based in Jakarta identified 4 Indonesian women from extremist group may be potentially pose security threat in the near future. One of them is from MIT, based in Solo. The study is largely focusing on this group, actually, or group affiliated with MIT or Mujahidin Indonesia Timur Women. The next, please. The next slide. Yes, the next slide is actually about research question. We actually have several research questions, but for this presentation, we are going to focusing on 2 main research questions. The first one is how are the role of women in violent extremist group and how their role shaped by gender dynamics, gender relation. The second one, what are the key factors, push and pull factors that promote prevent women from involving in violence extremist group? Yeah, there are 2 main questions basically in this presentation. The next slide, please. On research method, I think will be presented by Rani. Please, your turn, Mbak Rani.
Thank you, Mas Najib. This slide doesn't work. doesn't.
Okay.
So I will to present about our research method. We apply quantitative method by combining ethnography, in-depth and live history interview, as well as FGD with women, of course, local people, local government, and local police, and so on. And we interviewed around 30 women who either in joining a violent extremism or they counter the violent extremism. And next slide, we focus on woman agency and gender dynamics in both sides, violent extremism and counter-violent extremism. And we think this the dominant discourse in
Yes.
dominant discourse of a woman in violent extremism is dominant by discourse about a woman in victim or a woman to represent as object in a violent extremism group. And so this part of our research novelty. And then next slide, our findings in based on our field work, we found 4 typologies of women in violent extremism and counter-violent extremism. First is active supporter. Next, in research findings. First, active supporter. This category is women actively support or do violent extremism acts. For example, a woman play role as educator for their children to the next jihadis, or they playing as logistics or a combatant in POSO. And the second one is a passive supporter. This means like a woman didn't directly join with violent extremism group or activities, but they tend to give legitimations or justification or acceptance for the acts or ideology of violent extremism. And third, passive preventer. In these positions, women tend to refuse any ideology or acts of violent extremism, but they didn't have like power or willingness to prevent or to counter violent extremism ideology. So they tend to like play safe and focus on her family, and they didn't engage with any group, either violent extremism or counter violent extremism. Next, it doesn't work. Okay, and for categories as active preventer, this position, of course, they actively prevent or show like support to prevent or counter the violent extremism. In the postal context, for example, we found that women have equal position in household, so they can create equal dialogues, open dialogue with her husbands, and they also build like majelis taklim or Islamic congregations, especially for women to counter the ideology of violent extremism. And next, please.
Just
Okay.
continue, I think, Ran. Just continue.
No,
Yeah.
those positions, yes, those positions are caused by some main factor. We categorize three main factors, namely push factors, pull factor, and gender relations. First, push factors. This related to the history of Poso, which mentioned Mas Najib before. Poso have like transformations from communal conflict to terrorism. This like some women in this context make them to join with violent extremism because they lost their family, their husbands, so like they have revenge to the governments or local police. And then during the conflict also there are many jihadists outside of Poso come to Poso to spread and nurture the ideology of violent extremism. So also this ideology can push women to join in a violent extremism group. And then pull factors is related to rational pragmatism. For example, during the join with the violent extremism group, women experience with economic difficulty or have a bad experience. So they want to leave the violent extremism group because they want to good conditions for their family. So this part cost benefit calculations. And then social network is family, their husband, their uncle, or their family member also can pull them to either violent extremism or counter violent extremism. And then lastly, gender relations. We found that gender relations can throw women to violent extremism or counter-violent extremism. For example, I also mentioned before then that when women have equal position in household, they can create dialogue with her husband, so they can prevent earlier their ideology of her husbands, or other ways when women have an equal position in household, they didn't have like power to prevent or tend to follow her husband to join with violent extremism. For example, we found that many narratives such as woman should not know about her husband activities in outside. So this narrative can draw women to engage with violent extremism because they just know about her husband in good side, and when her husband arrested or captured by local police, and they like have feeling like this is unfair uh, to our family, and like they have like revenge for local police, and this factor can draw women to engage with a violent extremism group. And maybe next slide will continue by Mas Najib. Please, Mas.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Rani. I'm continuing. I think the next two slide. Yeah. The next slide is about typology of actor and violence extremism and counter-violent extremism factor. Yes, that's one. With colorful slide. Yeah. So as you can see here, there is intersection between four typologies of actors: active preventers, passive preventers, active supporter, and passive supporter. Yeah, so you can see the active preventer of violent extremism upside, which is mostly informed or influenced by rational pragmatic factors, but also the importance of issue of network, social network, and also the factors of ideology. So there is, for example, these three factors it influence in the coming of active preventer. In passive preventer, for example, yeah, it's actually influenced by mainly network, the network factor, and also by rational pragmatic factors. Two most important factor. Yeah. And then on active supporter of violent extremism, this is the issue of ideology coming up. Yeah, ideology coming up there. And also the issue of emotional factors important, and slightly actually about pragmatic rational in terms of making the influence. And also the last one, the passive supporter, actually the factor of ideology, network, rational, pragmatic, and emotional is blended to each other in this category. And then the next slide is actually the conclusion. Yeah. In the post-conflict POSO area, there are still some members and supporters of violent extremism group, especially those who affiliate with MIT or Mujahidin Indonesia Timur. The hotspot areas include Taman JK, Kayamanya, and Malino Morowali. Yeah. Some women are members of our supporter of this group, although very small. Yeah. The second point is actually that women have been playing some important roles in violent extremism group, especially in reproducing violence ideology and nurturing the new generation of jihadists. This is the most prominent role. However, this research also found that women also have played critical role in preventing and countering violence extremism, especially through non-violent education and building open constructive communication with spouse and family. And the last point is actually this research also found that the lack of systematic and comprehensive intervention targeting women and children in preventing, countering violence extremism in Poso. Thank you very much. Okay, Mbak Sartika.
Okay, thank you very
Please.
much, Pak Najib and Barani. So this is the first one. You will also provide the second one.
Directly, continuously. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Break.
Yes, please share another slide of us,
So
please.
It was very interesting presentations about how women in Poso, they show their agency not only as victim of the violence, but they also plays pivotal roles, either as either sharing as active or passive supporters or also preventers. I'm very interested with your presentations. That wow, it's very good that women actually have a lot of roles in the society, and they can also be active to deliver their knowledge and also their roles in the community. The next one is also interesting presentations about being young women Muslim in Poso in the post-conflict society. So Pak Najib and Barani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Rami. So yeah, we are moving to the second presentation. Actually, this is more particular. It's more about specific about being young female Muslim in a post-conflict society of Poso, the narrative from Poso. Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. This. Yeah. Actually, in the context is quite similar. Yeah. The Poso as a post-conflict area, maybe the different one is actually just about the last one. Okay. That the protracted religious communal violence in Poso has transformed local people to be more conservative in general, yeah, and a place of flourishing the ideology of conservatism and extremism. This is the, let's say, general changes, yeah, in the society of Poso, which is previously is quite secular kind of society, which is become the tone of public spaces become more conservative, become having more religious color. And the last one is actually regarding the Poso as part of Indonesia, and actually like general general setting of, let's say, Muslim countries where actually patriarchy is strong. Yeah, so Poso is actually not exception. So just quite similar with Indonesia in general and also another Muslim countries in general. This is the context of the research. The next slide, please. Yes, context of the study, young female Muslim in post-conflict area. During the courses of the conflict, youth were the main perpetrators as well as victims of violence. So youth critical actors during the conflict, both as the perpetrator, they are actors in joining in the, let's say, violence extremism, but also they are also the most important victims. Yeah, most of them actually become the victim in the drama of violence. And particularly for young women, they have additional consequences during and after the conflict. This is based on some previous research done by some scholar, yeah, like Mas Tri Subagya, Tri Hartono, Fiastivi, and others. And even they are continue to experience a sort of second class, as mentioned by Khan, yeah, in the post-conflict setting. So this is important focus of us, yeah, the kind of the novelty of us. So under the post-conflict context, female youth frequently experience disrupted and fragile transition to married and adulthood. So while in the, let's say, in normal setting of society, not post-conflict society, I mean, women, is actually the transition from, let's say, youth as a transition period from childhood to adulthood is quite smoothly, let's say, but in the post-conflict setting, this is different story. That is what we are going to tell in this paper. Next slide, please. Yes, objective of study. The study will produce alternative narratives of youth transition into adulthood, which trap in, let's say, in turbulent situation of a post-conflict society. Yeah. So this is the difference with others area. The character of turbulent conditions, such as the presence of extremist circle, yeah, is, in the case of POSO, is in of a research actually is Islamist extremist circle. The person of extremist circle brought about the prevalence of arranged marriage, which is actually experienced by 3 of our informants, the unequal gender relation, caused by the paternalistic society, which is actually quite general character in general, but I think it is weakened in the case of post-conflict POSO. The study also will explore and discuss the agency of female Muslim youth in navigating their life in turbulent and patriarchal society. One, please. Yeah, this study combined literature review, ethnographic fieldwork, and life history interviews. Yeah, as collecting data technique, and this research also we conducted with in collaboration with local NGOs. Yeah, and with local police. This is actually what we call like a triple helix research, actually funded by Faculty of Social and Political Science last year. So we are working together with local NGO, with also with local police, with also in some cases also helping us in assessing some informant, for example, who was in jail. Yeah, so it's hard to get the access without such permission. Location of study in POSO, yeah, post-conflict area. And in this paper, we are selecting 3 life stories of female young Muslim informant who experience arranged marriage in the post-conflict setting. Next, please. I think this is Rani's turn. Yeah. Okay, your turn, Mbak Rani.
Thank you, Mas Najib. I will continue these presentations. And in this study, we focus on 3 young female in POSO, and this contrary to the dominant study in the post-conflict society that have been imposed by the rule of man against it during and after the conflict, such as Mas Najib, Pak Ali, and so on. And on the other hand, study on Indonesian youth also dominant by the youth in like let's say in in the safe place, and this study we focus on post-conflict settings, and this our novelty. Next, please. So we focus on 3 narrative of a young female in POSO, namely Usna, Warsi, and Maina.
All pseudonym, yeah?
Yes, it's not the original names. And for example, Usna's story, she have Islamic boarding school background in Tanah Runtuh. This best known as camp of radical group during the conflict. She married to Rafa, which arranged by Abu Warda or Santoso, leader of MIT group. And Usna also have we say extremist family constructions because many of her family member joined to violent extremist group, and her husband also arranged her husband also joined with MIT group, but now he leave the ideology of violent extremism. And where's this story different from Usna? She didn't have boarding school backgrounds, and we classify as moderate family. She married with Aksan and arranged by her uncle, and her uncle also actively joined in MIT groups. But in the last, she decided to divorce following the arrest of her husband, and slightly different with Maina's story, because Maina from like leading a family. Her father is a prominent figure in Poso, the head of one Islamic boarding school who have many loyal followers. She also have higher educations, so we can imagine that Maina come from middle of class background in Poso, and she married to Hendro, the best cadre of Nasir Abbas. He is a JI leaders, Jamaah Islamiyah leaders, and this marriage arranged by her fathers. And next, please. So we know that all of our subject experience arranged marriage by their family members, especially men, and following by IPEC reports and confirmed by some scholars that motherhood and marriage are critical institutions in the expansion of a violent extremism group, and that's why Hendro, the husband of Maina, after their marriage, he can recruit many local boys and become local leader in Poso. Also Santoso, who arranged Usna and Maina, he got more loyal member for MIT groups. And next, please. In other side, after marriage, this influence their transitions in life, especially their transitions to marriage and their career. For example, Warsi, she married in 19 years old and play role as wife of terrorist fugitive, and being a single parents for her children, and have a new status as new member in the circle of extremism group. And Maina, because she come from middle and leading family, so she can actualize herself to new career pathway when her husband in prison. For the informations, Maina, before marriage, she have imagined about her career. He want to become successful woman, have a higher position in the company, but after marriage, he changed her career as entrepreneur and have a small business in Palu and Poso. Slightly different from Maina, Usna, she should deal with economic difficulties and flaming ideology of extremism during her husband in prison. And next, but we also found that even though they experience in difficult conditions and unsupported backgrounds, but they also can show their agency to create or to design her life after marriage. For example, Warsi, we call she redraw her future track to a new romantic relationship, career, and leaving the ideology of violent extremism. For Warsi case, because she decided to divorce to her husband, so this like a critical moment to see to redraw her life after divorce, and they decide to come back to her status as a moderate family. They she replaced her burqa with a fancy headscarf and fashion and like street with fashionables. And Maina, they she choose to renavigate her position and roles as a wife in the gender relation of the family, because mentioned before, they have like privilege with her educations and her position in the family, so they can create open dialogue with her husband. After her husband arrested by police because of because of terrorism case, they start to renavigate her position in the household. And lastly, Usna, she decided to follow the flow of Rafa. It means when Rafa, her husband, leaving the ideology of extremism, Usna also follow the decision of Rafa to leave extremism ideology. But this doesn't mean Usna didn't have agency. We found that the decision of Usna is common in Poso because it's part of rational calculations of how she live or she discharged from economic difficulty during joining an extremism group. So the decisions of Usna is a part of their agency to decide her life. Next, please. So we're following things arguments. All decisions are part of strategy and tactics of how they engage coping with social pleasure and taking the influence of this pleasure into consideration in relation with present possibility and in trajectories. So the decisions of Warsi, Usna, and Mainat is part of their strategy to survive, to maintain their life, to in the next future life. Next, please. So we conclude, unlike a dominant picture of youth transition to adulthood in Indonesia, which dominant discourse of potential of self-choice marriage, but in the context of POSO, young female tend to have many obstacles to show, to generate their agency in its life course, like career, like educations and marriage. And but in other side, young female in POSO also uh, have to maintain their agency in shaping and determining their future. Include, I mentioned before, they decided to leaving the violent extremism group, or decided to divorce, or decided to follow her husbands, and so on. So this our study, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mbak Rani.
Thank you. Yes.
It's another a very good presentations about how then the women in Poso who have been married try to develop their agency. Either they try to withdraw their possessions in marriage or renavigate in marriage, and also just fly with the flow by considering how they should face with the economic difficulties, for example. And after this, we still have the last presentations. This presentation, the presentations from Pak Wahyu, and then Triana, and also Sowania Ardi Prahara from Faculty of Psychology Universitas Mercubuana Yogyakarta will be delivered through the video. So please, if any questions for this presentations, feel free to put this in the group chat. And after this, we will have the sharing sessions for the question and answer. So the host, please, you can play the video.
Indonesia. Women as employees are found in almost all provinces in Indonesia. Women as professionals in the special region of Yogyakarta in 2018 amounted to 47.70%. Besides, most of the urban women aged 15 years working in the formal sectors, namely 53.15%. Residents who work in the formal sectors are residents who work with employee status. The comparison between the main job status of women and men shows the same pattern, where the percentage of the population who work as employees occupies the highest position, namely for women at 36.96% and for men at 41.40%. If a woman who is married and has children helps to make a living in the public sector, but the domestic burden does not decrease, then the woman's responsibility becomes double. The inequality of roles of women and men makes working women vulnerable to work family conflicts. Good relation between husband and wife or social relations also determine whether a work-family conflict experienced by working mothers will be resolved or not. In studies, the good relationship between husband and wife or a social relation is focused on the relationship between communal sharing and equity matching. This study aims to determine the effect of social relations Between husband and wife, there are communal sharing and equality matching to work-family conflict in working mothers. Work and family conflicts are conflicts between roles. Conflicts arise when roles in work and the family demand each other to be fulfilled. The fulfillment of one role will make it difficult to fulfill the other's role. According to Aiken and Askin, 2005, factors in work will affect the family life or work-family conflict, and conversely, factors in the family will affect work or family-work conflict. The work-family conflict aspect in the study are based on aspects of workload, workplace distance, workplace conditions, relationship with leaders, and relationship with coworkers. The good relationship that exists between husband and wife or social relation determines whether a work-family conflict experienced by a working mother will be resolved or not. In the study, the good relationship between husband and wife or social relation is focused on the relationship between communal sharing and equity matching. Communal sharing or social relation based on aspect of providing inner support, protecting or guiding, helping wives, understanding wives, being open, serving husband and children, wife managing home, educating children, maintaining communication, supporting husband's work, pleasing husband. Social relation equality matching aspect based on buying gifts, affection, attention, helping work, and trust. Methods. This research was conducted in the special region of Yogyakarta. Characteristics of the research subject are the wife has a children under the age of 12 who lives with her husband and works as a professional. Research data collection was carried out through a survey method using a work-family conflict scale and communal sharing relations, equality matching given to 296 research subjects. The research data analysis used was a test measurement model at once against three constructs using path analysis. Results. Based on figure 2, it can be seen that the chi-square value is 0.797 with PS equals 0.372. GFI value of 0.998, a GFI value of 0.989. Based on the per 30-minute criteria, namely the chi-square value with P is greater than 0.05, GFI value 0.90, a GFI value is greater than or equal to 0.90, the fit test results have met the criteria. Based on this result, the model is tested empirically, so that the effect of social relation between husband and wife is the equality matching on work-family conflict among mothers who work through communal sharing. Results. Furthermore, from the model test, it can also be seen that the direct effect, indirect effect, and social effect between variables. Communal sharing has a significant effect on work-family conflict, with a regression weight of minus 0.334, or P is less than 0.05. This means that the higher the characteristic of communal sharing in the family, it will contribute to reducing the level of work-family conflict. Equality matching also has a significant effect on reducing work-family conflict with a total effect of minus 0.208, or P is less than 0.05, but the effect is indirect through communal sharing. These findings indicate that if working mothers perceive the relationship between husband and wife as communal sharing, it will reduce work-family conflict experienced by mothers. Working mothers perceive the relationship between husband and wife, which is given by the husband in the form of providing spiritual support, protecting or guiding, helping the wife, understanding the wife, being open, while the wife serves the husband and children. The wife manages the house, educates children, maintains communication, supporting the husband's work, pleasing the husband is based on the motivation to provide welfare to the family without expecting remuneration to make work-family conflict experience low. The communal sharing relationship between husband and wife will make working mothers feel the problem of workload, workplace distance, workplace condition, relationship with leaders, relationship with coworker that occur at work will not complicate problems at home. Likewise, equality matching relationships can also have a role in reducing work-family conflict. When working mothers perceive that the relationship between husband and wife is communal sharing, working mothers perceive a relationship with their husband as equality matching, seeing between what is given and what is received in the form of buying gifts, affection, attention, helping works. This belief will affect the relationship between husband and wife based on motivation to provide welfare to the family without expecting anything in return. Service will make the work-family conflict experience is low. Special thanks to the research funders, Direktorat Pendidikan Tinggi has provided funding for penelitian dasar unggulan perguruan tinggi.
So thank you very much for the presentations for the last presenter. And now it's time for the questions and answer sessions. We still have 30 minutes. I've got several questions from the Zoom group chat. But before that, is there anyone, the participants, if you want to deliver your questions orally, then you will be welcome. Rinda Sirait, do you mind if you just speak up for your questions to the speaker?
Okay, thank you. But I'm sorry I cannot open my video because I think the connection is not quite stable enough.
That's okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm asking to Pak Najib and Mbak Rani, according to the presentation, it just come into my mind. Are there any forced pregnancies in the term of producing new mujahids? Because in the narration of the extremism community, to fulfill the power of mujahid, or there are a kind of movement that to make a lot of new mujahids as the future for their struggling into their something that they want to pursue. So is there any such as kind of forced pregnancy narration or story about that? Thank you.
Hello, Mbak Rinda Sirait. Thanks for the question. Should I respond directly or waiting for another question, Mbak Sartika?
You can just respond this directly, Pak Najib.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Sartika. Mbak Rinda, as far as we collected the data, I mean, through some data collection, interview, and others, we don't have so far any such stories in terms of forced pregnancies. Yeah, I mean that female who, for example, under pressure, under force by extremist group, for example, to become like a kind of like, what is that, like forced marriage kind of. Also, I respond to previous question by Mbak Ita. We also don't have so far, I think, maybe Rani could add information also, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of forced marriage in terms of women under forced by militia group, for example, or radical group, or family even, to marry with, let's say, male jihadists. What we had so far is what we formulate as arranged marriage. I mean, the father or the uncle of the woman tried to make to arrange a marriage, making, let's say, the date, the marriage between the female with a male jihadist. So that work would be kept so far. But maybe Rani could explain further, please, Rani.
Okay, thank you, Mas. Yes, I think also we didn't found the case of woman forced to pregnant to produce an next jihadist, but we found some case women actively educate her children to be the next mujahideen. It's access in Poso, and I think we found some case, but forced to pregnant. So far we didn't found that. I think this must.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Najib and Mbak Rani.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mbak.
Thank you very much for the questions, Marinda, and also for the answer from Panachip and Barani. Panachip and Barani, there is also questions from Mbak Ita. She asked you one major voice that she asked you about the research finding, the presence of extremist circle proud about the prevalence of arranged marriage. Would you mind to elaborate more on this part of the arranged marriage? In which party is leading in this arrangement in the post-colonial situations? How is the different from forced marriage? And then, if you don't mind, I also have questions with this kind of marriage.
Yes.
In the the abstract, I found that you mentioned about ex-wife. So do they often like marriage, divorce, and then married again? Or in your case, the respondents were the widow of the extremist?
Okay, thank you, Mbak Sartika. I will maybe respond to one cases, actually explaining about the Ma'inah cases, which is I know a little bit about that story, but Rani could maybe respond to your question regarding the ex-wife. I mean that one of our informant is divorced with, let's say, this jihadist. The cases of Ma'inah, which is actually the daughter of local leader of Poso, he actually arranged to marry with the leader of Jamaah Islamiyah, who of course she never know before. The jihadists actually just moved from Mindanao. So this is actually, I interviewed with this guy actually before when he was in prison in Jakarta. He is actually originally from Wonogiri, yeah, but then he went to, let's say, education in Salatiga, and then through network of Mujahideen, he went to Mindanao, southern Philippines. So he joined in military academy of Mujahideen in Mindanao for about 2.5 years there. And from there, he was assigned to go to Poso by the leader of Jamaah at that time, Nasir Abbas, who actually recently, lately, he turned to be the police collaborator. So he left the jihadism, he left terrorism. He became now work as a, let's say, the collaborator of police in doing counter-extremism. This guy, this Wonogiri guys actually went to Poso and then assigned to be like the leader of Poso through the marriage with the daughter of local leader. This is very interesting. Yeah, this is one of the, I mean, the secret behind the how jihadism becomes quite successful in Poso is because of this strategy. Through approaching the father, the leader of local Poso, he, for example, want to. This is not clear enough if the father know the linkage with Jamaah Islamiyah or not, but he, I think, exactly know that this is coming from, let's say, previously from foreign countries, from Philippines, for example. So he like educated, quite educated, yeah, in other countries. So therein, through marriage, in the beginning, the Maina actually refused to marry. Even the mother, her mother also refused to such marriage. But as the cases of patriarchal family, actually the father is very powerful, and then it happened finally that the marriage happened. Though the good news is that actually this leader, the, let's say, the leader of Jamaah Islamiyah, is actually eventually turned. He like also lately become quite moderate figure recently. When I met with him, he was very, very radical. He's very extremist. But recently, I met with him several times after that, after releasing from prison. He seemed to be quite moderate. And that one of the factor, I think, is because of his wife. His wife, who Rani met with her several times, Rani could explore further, is actually quite smart, very active, very energetic, and very, I think, persuasive in persuading his husband to leave the extremism. Maybe Rani could explain further. Please, Rani.
Thank you, Mas. Yes, I met Maina like 3 times, and I talk and she tell about her roles in the household. So, I think I agree with Mas Najib. She is smart because she have a higher education. I think this background is rare in Poso. I think mostly a female in Poso have like junior like senior high school, and yeah, I think the case of Maina is rare in Poso because she she uh, she can like build or create equal dialogue with her husbands, and this very uncommon in Poso. So yeah, I think the story of Maina is very interesting. And then I continue to tell about Warsi, such the question of Mbak Sartika. Warsi, she decided to divorce. Also, this decision also very rare in Poso because this part of like patriarchy conditions of women have many pressure from men, but Warsi like very brave to decide to divorce. She also get some pleasure from her uncles because her uncles feel Warsi like have wrong decisions because this this is not not true to divorce with husbands, and but the Warsi decisions to divorce is crucial moments or part of turning points for her life because after divorce she back to her previous background as moderate females, and then she also have a romantic relationship with young men in Bali, and she also actively engaged with social media. So, and then she also now work as waiter in local restaurant in Poso. So yes, I think the story of Warsi also interesting because different from other story of female in Poso. Maybe Mbak Sartika, this my experience can answer your ask or what? Mm,
Maybe I can add a little bit from Rani explanation. Actually, what Warsih did, it's kind of rebellion actually toward both the patriarchy family, yeah, because of the like brave to make decision regarding divorce, yeah. The second one also kind of rebellion to the like the extremist circle, because through that divorce he actually like disconnected from the circle of them. So this is very interesting, very rare, yeah. So while the Maina story is quite successful in turning and shifting in changing his husband from let's say extremism to moderate, the Warsih cases they just divorced because of it seemed likely not the husband, I think it's still in prison, yeah, Rani, yeah, the Warsih husband.
yes.
So he decided to divorce and take his own life trajectory, let's say, while the another cases of Usna, yeah, actually following the follow what we use the term, meaning that Rafa then changing also a little bit the trajectory with certain kind of relationship which is more equal and open dialogue. So that is we actually elaborate a little bit further in our paper actually. So any of you who want to know a little bit more, you can read our draft of paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answer, Pa Najib and Barani. It is very interesting to know how then private life of marriage can turn someone, even ideology, or can decide in which positions you are within the society. Mbak Ita, do you still have further questions for the speakers on this? You can just, yep.
Thank you very much for the time. Mas Najib, this is very interesting. I'm wondering, I'm a sociocultural anthropologist, and usually we are, what is it? So the principle of anonymity is very important. I'm asking you whether those names you have just mentioned are real names or pseudonyms?
Pseudonym. I think Rani explained a lot already. All pseudonym.
All right.
Of course, we are aware of that. Important secrecy and protection for our informant.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so for the other speakers, there are also questions. Unfortunately, one of the speaker has left the room. Probably there is problem with his connections, with Indra's connections. For Ibu Rahmi and Pak Wahyu, for Ibu Rahmi, do you think the strategies developed by the women from West Sumatra, which one do you think is the most effective to fight against the Dutch colonial at that time? And then for Pak Wahyu, do you think how then women's positions in order to have good bargaining power against his husband to share the communal work in the home? Pak Wahyu and Bu Rahmi, are you still here? Okay. Bu Rahmi and Pak Wahyu.
Maybe Salat Maghrib.
I don't think. Bu Rahmi and Pak Wahyu, are you still here? Oh, okay. This is the issue with the seminar online. Because sometimes you are here in your plane, but we don't know where you are to.
Yeah, that's the advantage of online conference, huh?
That's true. So
With
is there,
exception of moderator, of course.
does anyone still have questions? We still have some, yes?
Maybe I would like to add a little bit information which is important. I think we don't have time to highlight actually the importance of involving female researcher
Yes.
in our topic. Because I went to POSO several times, many times. I could not access to this issue because this is female cases. And you know, this is a delicate personal kind of, so that's why very hard for me. So most of my informant previously is male, actually activists, yeah, male activists, male jihadists, and so on. I met with many of them, but rarely, even never, female activists or female jihadists actually. So that's why in our last project and also in ongoing project, we are still running. We just got the research grant from Dikti for 3 years, for another 3 years. And we involving female, like Rani. Rani is very good researcher. He's just graduated from bachelor in sociology, and I involved him in join, and he spent time over there, and he could met with many people, which hardly do by male researcher. It's very difficult. Yeah, so that's why I involving 2 female researcher in last year, and for the next researcher we even involving 3 researcher, which is because the time the theme, the topic is very delicate, right? The role of female and violent extremism or violent and counter-violent extremism hardly touched by male researcher. That's important to highlight. I want to say that this is important. That so the importance of Rani also, Erin also here, yeah. Erin is also doing another research, also involving with us. So this is very important. That's why I supported female researcher joining and doing such kind of research, which is in some cases, in some topic, hardly touched by male researcher. That's important to say. Thank you.
So Mbak Rani and Mbak Erin, probably can you
could explore, yeah.
Yeah, your experience on how then you deal with the society there, especially like if we are single women to come to that place and we are not willing to fail. So how you manage the challenge there, Mbak Erin and Mbak Rani?
Okay. Thank you, Mas Najib and Mbak Sartika. When I was in POSO, of course I wear hijab. I wear hijab and thanks to local partner also, they provide network or provide informations of women in POSO, so I can introduce myself, and of course I didn't introduce myself by myself, but I also accompanied by a local partner in POSO. Especially when I in POSO, I was accompanied by local NGO, namely LPMS, and then local police, and in some case I should acting. I didn't introduce myself as researchers, but as like some niche of like women in Poso, so I can talk deeply with them. And yeah, any different backgrounds, and I think we know earlier about them is very important, so we can create strategy. So yeah,
So you
I
wear the
think
same hijab as them,
yes.
also the one who cover the nose.
Oh, no, I just wear hijab.
Okay, and then I mean, whether they also questions our women's marital status. For in your respondent, I saw that at 19 years old, so they are just so young to get married.
Yes, and I think it's quite common in Poso. I also found a woman who married in a 70 years old, or I think this common in the circle of extremism groups to marry in young age.
And then is that, I mean, do they ask you whether you are married or not? And they will be like more comfortable if you also married, for example?
Oh no. I think I introduce myself as singles, and it's not a problem for them.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Mbak Erin? Do you have any story on how then you deal with the society?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I can't open my video. About my experience in Poso, yeah.
Yeah, how you deal with so Pak Najib said that it's very hard for him to approach the young the women in the community, but then by involving the women researchers, these women researchers can access them, and Barani just share her experience on how then she developed strategy to access this women community. So what about you?
Oh, yeah, I experienced it also, and even I was using the big or long veil, like, and I was use one color attire, and yeah, in the first time in the beginning, yeah, I argue that it's also quite difficult because it is not easy to get their respect to us as a researcher. But I always try to convince them in the second and third meeting when I visited the woman. And I have one like tips. When I visit them, I just say that, of course, I'm not affiliated with the government, police, or other institution, and I'm only a student who want to finish the study. And whatever you want to, the people outside know about you all, please tell me, and I will tell the people outside that the real situation and the real ideology, or the real I mean, yeah, the fact in their community.
How long did you stay there until you got their trust?
In Poso, I stayed more than 2 weeks, because I also conducted a research in Palu, in woman jail, and I think it's I am I mean, I was fortunate at the time because I have a like a colleague, and that person has has the relation quite strong. They are close because that man has been working in Poso and accompany even the terrorist family in the Poso. So he convinced the people that I'm a part of his family.
Wow. Interesting experience that not only being a woman is a good point to get closer with the women community, it also needed like local partner, which is like from the family or yeah, someone who can lead us or introduce us to the people there. But unfortunately, the time is already almost 6. So we need to end this session. Thank you very much for all the speakers and participants. It's really a very fruitful discussions to talk about women from Poso and then in Yogyakarta and also in West Sumatra and also in the experience from Bali. Before we close these sessions, would you mind to turn on your video so the organizer will take picture of us? So the participants and speaker, please turn on your video so the organizer will take picture of us. Okay, anyone else?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so I think it's just the 4 of us. So please, the organizer. Here we are. Oh, so Byron is joining us.
Oh, yeah.
Erin coming up. Yeah.
Organizer.
Fatul Muin also.
Okay.
And Melanie also. Many more. Okay.
Okay. Wait.
Mbak Ita.
Okay, so the organizer
Okay.
with us.
Okay, enough.
So thank you very much for all the participants and presenters.
Okay.
See you next time. And
Thank you, Mbak Sartika.
Thank you, everyone.
Mbak Ita, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I cannot open. Suddenly cannot open the video. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Okay,
stay
bye.
safe. Bye.
Bye.
Great.